when I was thinking about the prompt for today's Inktober, which is bait, I was drawing a blank, so I ended up Googling quotes that have the word bait in it, and I don't know, it sounds kind of weird, but I was just hoping that there would be something that would spark an idea, and I found a quote by Thomas Jefferson that said, "Don't bite the bait of pleasure until you know there is no hook beneath it." And since it's October and there are spooky things on my mind, it made me think of what I'm working on now, the idea of a vampire about to bite some pretty girl, but she actually has a stake that she's about to use. And I really liked that idea going into it, but I still like the idea, and I was doing the thumbnails and I had different ideas of how the illustration could be laid out, and as soon as I moved to the draft, I just started struggling so hard, and I just couldn't get the pose to look natural, and I was trying to make the vampire look like creepy and otherworldly, but instead he ended up looking creepy and out of proportion, and I just could not get it right, and I kept thinking I should take some reference photos that would help me see what I'm doing wrong and fix some things, but I was too impatient, so I just kept going, and I wish I wouldn't have. One good thing though, at least it's a good thing to me, but I got to use my dip pen on this piece, and I rarely use it because it intimidates me so much, but since I was already starting to feel like nothing could really make this piece work. I was so frustrated with it, and I had reworked it so many times and had just gotten to the point where I was like, I just have to use what I've got. And so I was kind of just, thinking, well, I should just use my dip pen because I always want to use it, but I'm scared I'm going to mess things up, and this can't even be messed up. So I braved the dip pen. I risked it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I always like the lines that the dip pen makes, but I still need a lot of practice with it. And I did make a few smudges and things on the drawing because I forget that how slowly the ink can dry sometimes in the places that it pulls a little bit more than other places. So there was that. So my control wasn't perfect and the way I used it wasn't perfect, but it was so fun. So the reason I'm saying it's a good thing is that it saved my enjoyment of making the piece. Even though I wasn't loving how the piece looked, I was still enjoying the process of making it. Another thing I struggled with this piece was the background. I think I struggle with it throughout the whole process, but in the end I do get to a place that I'm happy with and I'm not mad about, but I do think that I'm going to practice making flat and gradient washes with my inks, maybe before tomorrow's Inktober even, just because I saw it with the first Inktober, but I definitely saw it with this one where it was literally just a plain flat background and I was still struggling. So I think that's something that I need to practice and work on. One problem with having struggled so much on the background too is that I'd initially intended it to be lighter, especially behind the vampire. I was thinking that his cape, his cloak, would be the darkest piece of the painting, and that also might have been bad planning anyways, because the way I set up his cape, it trails off the edge of the corner, which I don't know if that's awesome to have the darkest thing in your painting be running off the bottom corner of the page, but I don't know. I was trying to think it through, which that's the important part. I'm working on it. I'm trying to pay attention to value. Anyways, but because I struggled so much with the background, I ended up deciding that I hated how blotchy it was looking, and I would rather make the background darker so that I could get an even wash over it and just have his cloak be lighter than I had planned on. But I feel like that isn't the best read, and even with the stake, like it was supposed to have a much lighter background behind it, and I still tried to keep it decently light just so that that black stake would really stick out. And I don't know, just value-wise, still learning, still working on it. So yeah, it's a good thing I'm working on that this Inktober. I don't know. I'm looking back at the piece and I feel like I really like the concept, but I don't like all of the choices that I made, and I'm not super happy with what it ends up being. So I almost want to, like, at some point come back and revisit it and fix the things that I feel like are weakening the idea, like the general idea of it. I don't know. We'll see. One reason I think I like the idea behind this piece so much is that it feels like it has more of a story to it than some of my illustrations sometimes feel like they have. Like, I always have a story in mind, some at least a little bit of background information that I at least have for myself, but this feels a little bit deeper, or like hinting at something deeper than some of my illustrations have had, because it isn't just a vampire hunter, or like about to hunt a vampire, and it's not just a vampire biting somebody. It's like, well, it's kind of both, but I feel like that makes me ask a question, you know, like I'm like, well, why are they together? Like, why doesn't he know that she has a stake? Like, why does she have one? How did she know? I don't know. Maybe that's silly. It's my piece, so I can make up whatever I want. I mean, anyone can. Anyone is welcome to make up whatever they want about this. But I'm just saying, I like that, at least for me, it sparks more questions and a start of a story. And I think I want to incorporate that more into some of my future Inktober's and just future illustrations in general, because I like that idea that maybe the story isn't as straightforward as you would assume. So, I don't know, maybe instead of revisiting this specific piece, I do something similar, or I try to base some future illustrations off of it, like a story or something. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't want to lose the thing that I love about this piece just because I was frustrated with, like, the outcome of some of it. Thanks for watching my third Inktober. I think normally after a day like today, I would be a little bit disappointed just because I wasn't perfectly happy with what I ended up with, but I'm actually just excited to keep going with this challenge. So that's good to feel that way. Anyways, if you want to see pictures of my Inktober's, you can go to my Instagram at Mackenzie_Benson, and then I'll be posting more videos here every day this month. So thanks, bye!